All right, I'll go ahead and get started and then I'll watch to see if anyone else joins and I'll admit them as they come. Anyhow, you guys, welcome in to session 7. My name is Ronnie. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the outreach coordinator for AACD. I'm excited to have you guys here and share the agenda that we have for you guys today. We'll continue building skills that directly support your mapping and conservation work. As always, these trainings are guided by your feedback, so the questions you ask and the input that you provide through our feedback forms help us design the sessions that are relevant and practical. So we honestly and truly value your participation in shaping these trainings. Before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and go over a quick little list here of housekeeping notes. Today's session is being recorded, so you'll have access to the recording and a corresponding reference sheet through the AACD website. If you missed earlier sessions, those are available there with the downloadable reference sheets, and I went ahead and I dropped that link for you guys in the chat. Please feel free to keep your camera on or off, whichever is most comfortable for you. To minimize background noise, though, please keep your microphone muted unless you're asking a question. We'll be moving at a steady pace. So for today's material in 1 hour. So, but please don't hesitate to let us know if we need to slow down or revisit something. Questions are always welcome. You can post them in the chat that's to the side, or you can raise your hand, which is at the top of the toolbar, and I'll go ahead and we'll pause and then we'll address them as we go. Also at the end, we'll go ahead and do an open Q&A for those of you that may have questions at the end as well. After the session, you'll receive a short feedback form. Please take a couple of minutes to complete it. It's the best way for us to ensure that these sessions stay focused on what matters the most for you guys. Today's session will be covering how to create a topographic map from DEM data, how to create shareable shapefiles, and if some time allows, how to design finished maps in layout. Let's see. And today we're joined by our guest speaker, John Rose from Rio Verde Archaeological Services, LLC, who will be sharing his expertise with us today. So John, if you're ready, I will go ahead and exit out of my screen and I will let you take over here. Go ahead and do this. Okay.
All right, let me try to share my screen.
Sure. Perfect.
Can everybody see the ArcGIS display there?
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay, good deal. All right, well, good morning, everybody. My name is John Rose. I'm an archaeologist. I do archaeological projects for the Arizona Association of Conservation Districts. What we're going to walk through today is kind of typical for my projects. When I have an archaeological site, I wind up creating a topographic map and then putting it into the layout and creating something that I can insert then into a report. So all the things we're going to go through here today, again, the 3 things are create a shareable shapefile, download and use a DEM, digital elevation model, to create contours, and then create a layout in the layout mode, and then I'll show you how to share or how to save a layout for future use. So to start out, I have this site that I drew in here. It's a fake archaeological site. It's located up on Big Chino Wash, northwest of Paulden, Arizona. I drew it in here, and you can see over here in the catalog, it shows it in the geodatabase. And the reason I did that is because I don't know much about the geodatabase, and all I do know is I find it hard to work with things in there. It's just my own ignorance of it right now. I'm used to working in shapefiles, so what I always do, if I have something that goes into the geodatabase, I like to share it or save it as a shapefile. So that'd be the first thing we do. And I got to warn you, there's going to be a lot of steps here going through this, but I put in a couple links in the chat. One of them is to an excellent YouTube video that takes you through pretty much all of the steps about how to download the DEM and how to create a topo map or contour lines from that. So although there's going to be a lot of steps here, I'm going to be amazed if I can remember them all the first time. If you need backup, the YouTube video is a pretty good resource. So go ahead and start here with creating a shapefile from what's here in the Geo database. What I do is I right click here, come down to data, come over here to export features. Click on that. So it pulls up this window for exporting features. It by default puts in Big Chino site, which is what this is called right now. It's the only thing in the table of contents that they can do this sort of thing with. It's the only feature in there, so it comes in by default. Next down is where it's going to go to. And this is the part that's crucial for saving this as a shapefile. If you click on this, I think it goes back into the Geo database. And again, I don't know really how to use those. So what I do on all my projects, I set up a separate folder for my project. Go ahead and we'll click on this. There it is. Okay, when I clicked on that, it comes up to the Geo database. What I want to do is get to my project folder. So I've got it set up on my C drive. And here's the folder right here. Click on that. And down in the name, I'm going to type in Big Chino wash site or Big Chino site. And then I'm going to type in shapefile just so we can keep track of this to make sure that is the shapefile that we're using. You definitely don't have to name shapefile right there on your files. Now right here, I used to go .shp because I used to have problems saving these as shapefiles. But more recently, I found that I don't have to do that for some reason. So we'll see if it works this way without typing in the .shp. I'm going to hit OK. And it looks like it's going to work. So if you go and look at the output feature class, it has Big Chino site shapefile and .shp. So with some luck, it'll save it as a shapefile. So I'm going to hit OK and hope for the best. And up in the right-hand corner here, it says that the export features is completed. If I go over into the table of contents, it shows now two of these polygons. It shows the original one we had here, Big Chino site, and it shows this new one, Big Chino site shapefile. So that should be our shapefile. So let's go to the folder to see if it's there. And luck is with us today. Everything is there. Here's the shapefile. And of course, shapefile is a whole set of different files. What I'm going to do next is turn it into a zip file, which is pretty easy to do, and that we can use this to share. And then also for the next part of this exercise, it's going to come in handy too. I don't know what all these different files are in here, and I know that you probably don't need all of these that I've highlighted for a shapefile, but because I don't know much about it, I err on the side of putting all these things in there. So I'm going to go to zip file, and I created the zip file right here for our shapefile. All right, so I'm going to go back over to the map. I'm going to get rid of the one that's in the Geo database. We're not going to use that again. All right, so now we have it saved as a shapefile. So the next thing we want to do is we want to download the DEM to create a topographic map. So what we're going to do here is go out on the web, and I dropped the address for this website in the chat. It's a USGS website. And when you click on it, it should come up with this. It's a national map data download application. I'm going to hit launch. All right. Once you're here, you obviously see a map of the United States on the right and a bunch of instructions and data and stuff on the left. So what I usually do first is I know the data that I'm looking for. If you're doing a DEM, I go to the second box right here where it has 3D elevation program products and services. I click on that and then this opens up. It opens up for me as a default to this 1/3 arc-second DEM. This is another thing I really don't understand, but what I do understand is that every time I use this, everything works fine. So I've never really experimented with anything else. I used the default. I'm not sure if it's going to default to the same spot for you, but this is what I wind up using because it's what it shows me to use. You can come down here to file formats. It's going to produce a geo-referenced, I believe, TIFF file. All these other ones are dead, dead links. So you're not, it's going to default to that too. So now the question is, out of the entire United States, where's your project and where can you find what you're looking for? This DEM. There's a couple of ways of doing it. You can zoom in and find your project by zooming into where it is. You can change the background maps. You can find it that way. And once you get into the neighborhood, you could use extent and it would, you would wind up getting all the DEM models for the extent of your viewing screen right here. You can draw a polygon in the area where your project is. It would pull in all the DMs that cover that area or a point. But what I like to do, because we just created the shapefile of our site, you have this option right here that says upload shapefile. So I'm going to hit that, choose file, because I've done it before. It goes to the correct folder. There's our zip file right there. I'm going to hit open, cross my fingers. There it is. So the site comes up just like that in the application. So now we can go ahead and try to find DEMs that cover the area where the archaeological site is. So to do that, you go to this button right here where it says search products. Hit that. And bingo, we've got a DEM right here. Again, it's that USGS 1/3 arc-second DEM. You can see when I put my mouse over that, you get a shaded effect over on the right on the map. I'm going to zoom way out here. What it's showing you is how big of an area this DEM covers. A good part of northwestern Arizona. So it's a big piece of data. We're going to go ahead and download it. To download it, you hit the download link right down here in the bottom. It's downloading. I'm going to go into my downloads. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to drop it into my project folder on my C drive. Okay, so that's where the DEM is located. This is the DEM file. So now I'm going to go back to the map, go back to ArcGIS, and now I'm going to load that into my map. So to do that, go to map, add data. It takes me to the geo database where I don't want to be just because I don't know how to use it very well. This thing is working a little bit slow because it's maxing out my computer. All right. Here's one of the things that ArcGIS has a problem with is updating folders quickly. And so like right now, we know that that file is in this folder, but it's not showing. So what you have to do is just hit the refresh button. And if you're lucky, it'll show up. And there it is. So you can click on that, hit OK. And now it's going to pull it into the map. And it's going to take us a few seconds to do that because it's a pretty big file. Everything went black, but that's okay. So here's what the DEM TIFF file looks like when you pull it into ArcGIS. Again, you can see it's a huge area. You know, of course, a DEM is a raster file, so there's, you know, I don't know how many little boxes to create this. Each of the little boxes or cells has a number or two in it. One of the numbers is the elevation. It displays like, you kind of get a feeling for the topography in the TIFF file. So it's one of the first things you want to do when you pull it in. Does the shaded topography look kind of like what you think it ought to be looking like where you pulled it in, just as a check to make sure everything's okay. And you can see down here where you have Big Chino Valley, it looks just about right. Mountains and things look right. So I think we have the right spot. So the next thing we do is try to get the size of this file manageable for doing the different things that we want to do. So we're going to extract a piece of the data and just use that piece so it doesn't overwhelm our machines. So I'm going to hit Tools and hit Toolboxes. If you go all the way down on the Toolboxes and go to Spatial Analyst Tools, hit that. And the first thing you hit is extraction. And again, these are a lot of steps. And again, that YouTube video goes through all of these. In some spots are a little bit different than what I'm showing you. I think that the YouTube video was made with a different version of ArcGIS, but it's close enough that you can kind of unpack your way through it and come up with the right thing. So we will extract just a piece of the data. I like to extract by rectangle. You've got a couple of different options. I find it easiest just to use a rectangle. Click on that. So it opens this window. It asks for the raster file that you're going to use. There's only one right now. Load that in. So you get a couple different choices of how you want to select this. I use this one. I use the second one to draw the extent. And click on that. And then I'm going to draw a rectangle around the area that I want to have the topographic map show for the contour lines. What you want to do when you do that, you want to have an area that's big enough so that when you do draw the contour lines, when you give it the instructions to do that, the program has enough information that it can draw the topographic lines. To draw the lines, what it winds up doing is it extrapolates between the different cells and comes up with a best fit line for each of the contour intervals. If your area that you're working in is too small, it won't have enough cells to create a really good topographic map. And sometimes even with a larger map, you'll see over onto the sides of it, there's some errors that come from just not having a lot of cells to use for extrapolation. So anyways, we'll go ahead and create a rectangle. We're going to pull the data from, and that's it. And then just go down to Run. Knock on wood that it's going to work. And there it is. So step I forgot to tell you about, you can name that output raster file something that you want. I just always go with the default. So here is our new file. You can see it also created this kind of blue square. That's the area that it pulled the data from. I'm going to turn that off and get rid of that. We're not going to use that again. And I'm also going to turn off big file. And so what we have now is just a small bite of that really big DEM that makes it more of a manageable slice of data to work with. And again, when I get to this, I like to take a look to make sure everything looks right compared to the topographic map. And on the grayscale here, you can see there's a drainage. I can see I have that drainage on my topo map. The big Chino Wash floodplain is flat and showing that here. Looks like there is a drainage just north of the site. And there's one on the topo map. So it looks like everything is okay. So right now I'm going to turn off the topo map and the archaeological site and just work with this. Okay, so now we have the piece that we need. We're going to go back to the toolbox, still in Spatial Analyst. And now we want to go down to Neighborhood. What this is going to do in Neighborhood, what we want to do is we want to smooth out the data. If I was to create a set of contour lines, a topo map, with the data that I have here, the topo lines more than likely will be kind of jagged, and you might have like little isolated little loops of contour lines and things like that. And that's caused by the fact that the data in each of the individual cells doesn't relate well sometimes with the data in the cells next to it. So what you do is you use this neighborhood function, and what it does, it looks at the neighborhood of cells around each individual cell and kind of averages things out and smooths it out. So when you make a topographic map, you won't have topographic lines that look like a crosscut saw. So what we do is go to focal statistics, and you can see in the little box, I don't know if you can see that on your screen, but it says calculates for each input cell location a statistic of values within a specified neighborhood around it. So click on that. It asks you for the raster. We want to use the one that we extracted. Then output, I just use the default on that. Now this part's important right here where it says width and height. It's only important because when you look at the video from YouTube, they use 7 rather than the default of 3. And I'm pretty sure what that is, it creates the size of the neighborhood, as it says here, of how many cells around each individual cell it's going to average to. The video recommends doing 7. I don't know what's going on, so I just use 7 too. I just leave it at statistics type as mean, the default. I'm going to hit run, hope for the best. And there's the smoothed data set. And when you look at compare the two, here's the original. The lines are much sharper than the one that's averaged. Again, with the one that's averaged, you'll get smoother topographic lines. That's the reason you do that. All right. Once you get to that point, you go ahead and you can make your contour map. So to get there, you just keep on moving down through this toolbox and you go to Surface and you go to Contour. And kind of goes kind of in the same way as the other ones have. Go to your input raster. In this case, when I use the focal, it's going to give an output file for the contour. Now, the next couple of steps are kind of important. The first one is, what do you want your contour interval to be on your map? Right now, it doesn't know what units you're working in. So you give it whatever, normally we work in feet, of course. If you have a fairly level plot that you want to create topographic maps from, you want to have a low number for your contour interval. If you have a lot of topography, you'll use a larger contour interval. I'm going to use 5 on this. What I found is 5 is probably a little bit close. Maybe 10 would be better, but we'll use 5 for this exercise. Base contour, I always leave at 0. Here's the one that's really important, the Z factor. This is your elevations themselves. If you just run it the way it is right now, like I used to do, and went to pulling my hair out, it's running it in metric. I didn't know that for a long time, and I couldn't figure out why my maps just didn't look right and just were not right until I read somewhere I saw on a YouTube video that it's metric, and you have to convert to feet by typing in 3.28, because it's 3.28 feet in a meter. Type that in there, and with luck, it'll all be good. Contour type, just contour, leave it as a default. Hit run, knock on wood. All right, there we go. And it created the contours from the DEM. I'm going to go ahead and make the contour lines black. All right, so there's our contour lines. What I want to do now is I just want to check to make sure that everything is good. And so again, I compare it to the underlying USGS topo map. And what I can see here is, yeah, everything is aligning pretty good. We got this wash coming in here, and you can see the topo lines for it there. You go out into the floodplain for Big Chino wash. Everything gets flatter out in that direction. You even get some nice topo lines that go right along Big Chino wash. Everything looks like it's doing fine. The next thing I do, just to double check, is I'll take a look at my underlying topo map and see what the topographic elevations ought to be. And here, let me zoom in, it says 4,600 feet. So I turn on my contour lines. When I open the attribute table, I'm hoping to see numbers around 4,600. I'm going to go ahead and sort them. And life is good. We have numbers around 4,600. As a final check, what I like to do, where I have that reference line, in this case 4,600, I'll go into this data and I'll highlight the 4,600 lines. There's 3 of them in this. Highlight those and hope for the best and hope that they line up kind of close with the 4,600 line on the topographic map. And you can see they do. You can see there's not a one-to-one correlation between the 4,600 foot topographic line on the USGS map and what we've created with the DEM. They probably come from 2 different data sets. Although they're not one-to-one, that's as close as I can figure out how to get them. And they work fine for making archaeological site maps. And so with that, I call that good. And just confirm that we have a good set of topographic maps or topographic lines. I turn off the underlying one there. So now it's a set of contour lines, but we don't have our contour intervals. All we need to do there is label. So I turn the label on just to see what we get. Obviously, we're not getting elevations. So I'm going to go into labeling properties and go here first. The expression that's in there, what it's showing us right now, the numbers are the ID in our table. I'm going to get rid of that. What we want to have it show is contours. The contour number is in this column. I'm going to hit apply. And there we go. We got our contour labels on the contour lines. But as they are, they're really hard to read. And contour lines are usually done in a certain standard. And ArcGIS does this really well. It's real easy to do. So I go over into position. Again, I'm still in labels. Right here, you can click on this drop down. Oops, excuse me. Right here on placement, it says regular placement. I'm going to click and it has contour placement. So I'm going to click contour placement. You can see it moved them all onto the contour lines, which is, standard for contour interval, for contours, elevations on contours. But here you can see that we can't really read the numbers because the line goes through the number. What I do, there's probably a better way of doing this because this shows up a little bit shabby, but it works. What I do is I go to halo and halo this number. I use the white halo color. You can see by just clicking on that, it wound up putting a halo around all the numbers, one point in size. But even with that, you still get lines going through the numbers, your contour line. So I bump it up. There it is at 2. So at 2, it looks like it takes care of everything. I'm not seeing any bit of the line behind the number. So I'll go ahead and just keep it at 2. Close that window. Okay, so there we are with our topographic map. So now what we want to do is create a layout to turn it into something you can put in a report. And so to do that, I go to new layout, because right now we're just working on a map, we don't have a layout. You could start from scratch. I usually use letter when I start from scratch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in a layout file that I've saved, a template. We'll start with that. I'll show you working with that. And then I'll show you how you can create and save your own layout file template so you can do this too. It saves a lot of time. Okay. And where the heck are those? There they are. It's just slow. So here are the templates that I have for doing archaeological site reports. You have a set of maps that you do over and over and over again. So right now we're working on the site map. So I'm going to hit the site map layout. I'm going to hit OK. All right, and there's the basic layout. I'm not real happy with this layout right now. I'd like to do some more work on it. It has the information that I saved with that layout when I did save it. It's called, the name of the map is a site map. It has a site number here that I have to change every time, make it the correct site number. Where the site is located as far as jurisdiction or land ownership, land management. The topographic quad, change that, as differences go, and all of that. The scale, contour intervals, important to put on there. I've got a north arrow and a scale in meters. So now to pull the map in that we're working on, what I do is go to insert, just like you're creating a layout from scratch. You go to map frame and click on the one we've been working on. I'm going to draw that map frame in here. And there that is. I'm going to turn on the site so we know where the site is. Okay. So now we pulled the map into the template. You can see it's not quite pleasing to the eye and not to the right scale. So what we're going to do is zoom in. This is one of the things that I had a hard time learning, coming over from ArcMap into ArcGIS. I like this now. I think it's a much better tool. But anyways, when you're in the layout, you, of course, turn on Activate. And so it creates the map function, but within the layout. So to zoom in, you can't zoom in on your map just in the layout mode. You have to go back to the map mode. And now I'm going to zoom in. You can see as it zooms in, it makes corrections with the topographic lines. excuse me, it makes corrections with the labels. If you think the labels are a little bit small, you can go back and in the labeling and make them a little bit bigger. You just make it to the size that you like. You can also fine tune the size by going down to the lower left and say I want to make it 1 to 3,000. Type 3,000 in there. Gets to that. But once you get it to where you want it and you're happy with it, you can hit layout and it goes back into the layout mode. And so once it's here, everything's in there. What I do is I try to make it so it looks good. So, someone looking at it, it makes sense. Like I mentioned before, I think it's a little bit too busy with the contour lines. And so I'd probably run this again for the contour lines and create the contour lines at a 10-foot contour interval, get rid of every other one of these. One of the things that I can't figure out how to do when I pull in a layout is have the scale that comes with the layout automatically sync with the scale of the map. So what happens is I wind up having to insert a new scale. Where is that scale bar? So I'll just draw this one next to that one so you can see the difference. Okay, two things wrong with that. I'm going to kill that. So I like to have scale bars like that because I think they're easy to read. And go ahead and draw this out. Okay, it's in miles. I think you double click on this. There it is. Here's your scale bar. Window that opens up where you can make changes here. You can see down here it's in miles. Archaeological stuff is done in meters. So do that. You can change your the number of increments in your bar, because when I make it to a size that'll fit on my map, I'm going to have to squeeze it all together. And it's a mess. So with that, where's the bars? It's right here for divisions and subdivisions. I just bump these down. And at some point, it turns into something legible. It's kind of legible. Also, what I like to do when I do these, I like having the unit of measure down below the bar. When I was working on this for this presentation, right now I can't remember how to do that, but there is a way to do it. Going to get rid of this one. So for now, we'll pretend that we're happy with this. Of course, with your text, if I wanted to change site numbers, I would go into here, change the number to whatever. It makes the changes in here. Won't hit enter because we'll do that. All right. The other thing you'd have to change in here, you see the scale is 1 to 500. Down here, my scale is actually 1 to 3,000, so I would change that for my final map too. So anyways, there we have a map that was actually made with a template. But say you made your map from scratch and you're happy with what you have and you want to save it as a template for future use. All you need to do is go up to this line on the table of contents, go all the way up to the top. You can see the name of this template is Sitemap Layout 5. Just right click on that, scroll down, you have Save as Layout File. Click on that. It goes back to this folder where I have my layout files saved. You can name it there and hit Save, and it'll save that layout. One of the things you'll notice when you do that, if your map frame is on, next time you load it, it'll have that map frame in it. What you want to do is turn the map frame off before saving your layout. And then the final piece of this is how do you take this now and get it into something you can put into a report? To do that, all you have to do is hit share up here on these tabs, export layout. It opens the export layout menu here. The only real big choice you have here to make is how do you want to save it? If you're putting it into a Word document, at least when I do it, all I know how to do is put it into a Word document, an illustration in as a JPEG or a TIFF. Some of the forms that I work with are PDFs. If it's a PDF form, I save it as a PDF. We'll just save it as a PDF. Default, it's going to go into the project folder that's buried deep on my hard drive. You can change this to have it save where you want. I let it just go there because it's hard to do that every time. I just let it save there and I grab it when it's done. So everything else I leave at the default, but there's adjustments you can make. I'll hit export, knock on wood. See, hope everything works out all right. I go to show in folder, and there it is in the folder. I open it up and hope that everything looks good. It looks fine. What I do then is I just copy it. And any of the other maps that I've been producing that have landed there. And in the end, I put them here in my project folder. Look at it one last time, make sure nothing got garbled. And it's all good. So I know that was a lot of stuff. But again, just about all of it is located on that YouTube video. I found YouTube and searching things on the net to be really handy. When I've had questions, I can find stuff there. So anyways, that's my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions from anybody? Oh, great. Well, thank you, John, for sharing. That was a lot of great information today. We hope you guys found this very helpful for you guys. As a reminder, you'll receive a feedback form shortly after this session. So if you guys could take a couple minutes, just kind of complete it. Again, your input helps us share future trainings, helps us make sure that future trainings are useful and relevant to you guys. And I do apologize again, my calendar booted me out of Teams and it auto defaulted me to Google Meet when I was scheduling this meeting. So I noted to myself that I'll make sure that my calendar is logged into Teams. So I do that for you guys again. Dawn, you have a question?
Sorry, I did. Maybe just a brief question. John, thank you so much for doing that. Do you find that there's different kind of mapping? So like you're an archaeologist, some folks are in range. What we are discovering is that the power of mapping and be able to communicate with different folks is extremely powerful. Do archaeologists have a different burden, or is there a different goal that you guys have for mapping?
I think every discipline has its own standards. And, what I do, what I did when I started out doing this is I looked at a bunch of different archaeological survey reports and looked at the kind of maps that they had and the ones that looked good. And so with mine in that layout, you saw on the very bottom, I have all the information, about the site name and all that. I set it up that way because that's the standard for archaeology. And I think that, all of our disciplines have their own standards. And so, what I would recommend, I'm sure what everybody is doing is, take a look at the publications in your field and look for maps that, you think look good, convey the information well, and try to, mimic that.
And so when you're dealing with different agencies, ASM or SHPO or things like that, are you guys finding, is there a certain size that there's a restriction to, or that's ideal, or is it very individualized?
That's a good point. What I also do is read the requirements, from the agency that I'm doing the project for, and also, from the SHPO. Hopefully those are both aligned, and they mostly are, and see what their standards are for the map sizes, they usually ask for, I know with ASM, maps that are 8.5 by 11, regular letter size maps. Maps have to be a certain scale, usually 1 to 24,000 for the certain types of maps. So before, it's best before starting the project, or at least before starting the mapping, to read, what those requirements are and, build it to those specs.
Awesome. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, you guys, thank you again. Any other questions before we head out? Anybody? No? All right, you guys. Keep an eye out for the registration link for our next session. That's tentatively scheduled for Friday, November 7th at 8 a.m. We'd love to see you guys back. And then once again, thank you guys for your engagement today. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. If you want to go ahead and take a look at any of the previous presentations, I did go ahead and I linked in the link is in the chat. Also, my email is in the chat as well if you guys have any questions. And then also too, if any of you guys have any great stuff that you would like to share with us with ArcGIS Pro, like John did today, reach out to me. We'll get you set up on a session if you would like to go ahead and kind of share with everyone and do a training yourself. So anyways, you guys have a great day. Thank you again. And we will see you the first Friday of next month. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good one.